What's up, folks? Today we're going to be making a reaction video to Synthetic Man's yearly, basically, gaming's dead because things aren't the way they used to be, blah, blah, blah. Women aren't as attractive as they used to be in games. Also, black people exist, Muslims exist, everyone who isn't white exists, and this is why gaming is bleak, blah, 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 blah. Every single one of his videos summarized in a nutshell like that, because the man basically is on auto repeat and he's a fucking grifter at basically the lowest level. Like, man, it's so bad when he got roasted by fucking Charlie, Moist Critical, because, like, basically, we're all onto this man's game. We're all onto this man's game. He's pandering to the same morons who think everything sucks, everything is bleak, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? Let's get into it. Synthetic Man's video, the future of gaming is bleak. Man, oh man. Cannot wait to be done with this one.
Welcome back to Synthetic Man's incredibly cynical break.
I just want to say this too. I love how Synthetic Man is super judgmental of people's appearances. What this is what he looks like. He is not an attractive person. He's just not. I think Jeff here is more attractive than Synthetic Man, if I'm being honest. If I had to compare the two.
Down of the Summer Games Fest. And much like last year, it is somehow even worse than the lowest lows of the last few E3s. It is truly impressive how bleak the future of gaming looks. I know many of you want to see the return of the woke counter, but first of all, there are way too many woke moments to count here. Almost every single game shown had some form of left-wing propaganda. I know that sounds ridiculous, like I'm going off the fucking deep end.
Because you are.
Synthetic Grifter is just telling his audience what they want to hear, right? I'm seeing woke in everything, as the tourists like to say. But my god, dude, it doesn't get much worse than this. I watched 6 hours of these showcases, and maybe 15 minutes of that contained games I'd be actually interested in playing. I have never seen so many diverse female protagonists in my...
And right there. That's how you... I've been saying this for a while. If black people in video games bothers you, then get the fuck out of video games. I don't want you here. I don't. I personally in a camp of, I'm tired of hearing people talk about black people like there's some kind of minority that we shouldn't, have represented in media. I think we should have, black people, Asians, Muslims, what the fuck ever out there. If the game developers want to make a game that has a female black character or a black male character or a transgender character or a fucking alien, I do not care. Just show me a good game. And I do think some of these games they were showing actually look pretty damn good. I think Summer's Game Fest was actually pretty average for the most part. I thought the Xbox Showcase was steps above what they've done before. I thought the State of Play was a thing. I didn't watch the Ubisoft one for the record, just because Ubisoft and me just do not get along.
My entire life. Like I said in the previous video, this is a showcase of future flops. These games don't even have to make money because they're funded by BlackRock and the Canadian government. If you think indie games are exempt from this, you are delusional. Obviously, the AAA games are no better. They're man jaws galore. I feel bad for anybody who's been begging for a Perfect Dark remake or reboot. Holy shit, talk about a monkey's paw wish. But for this video, I'm going to change up my coverage a little bit. Like I just said, there's not going to be any woke counter. There's no point. And honestly, there's way too much material here for me to condense down into like a 30-minute video. So instead of covering everything that happened during the show, I'm instead going to review each showcase individually and cover the highlights. The highlights being mostly negative, of course. Since I never made a video on the Sony State of Play, I'll briefly give my thoughts on it at the end if you're curious. But without further ado, here is the worst gaming showcase of all time, the Summer Games Fest 2024. Starting off, we had the biggest show, the main Summer Games Fest showcase, which was 2 hours long, yet just showed absolute slop for the vast majority of that runtime. Shockingly, there weren't like breaks for musical numbers or celebrities like the Game Awards. It was
Why would there be? Jeff has always said that the Summer's Game Fest is focused on games. That's always been their focus. Hell, I noticed you barely saw a fucking audience there. I think there was like a handful of people there. And yeah, not every game is going to be a hit, home run. I do agree that a lot of these games definitely look like they're questionable. But at the same time, I'm not so, I guess you would say, jaded that I'm not open to the idea of being wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this looks like garbage. It'll never be good. I'm not DSP. I'm not Synthetic Man. I'm someone who's like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me right now. But when it comes out, you never know. For example, Warhammer 400k Space Marines 2. I didn't think I was going to be interested in that game. But the more I see this game, the more I check out the trailers, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I kind of want to play this game now. You know, Stalker 2, also in that same category, where it's like, hey, look, you know, I didn't think I'd be interested in it, but once I saw the Stalker 2 trailer at the Xbox showcase, I was like, man, I kind of wish this was coming to PlayStation. Just because that's the only console I own right now.
Truly mostly game trailers, and yet somehow nothing looked interesting outside of a handful of games. Now, of course, that handful of games were games that I wanted to play, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which will no doubt be the Chud game of the year.
Praise be to our Lord Jesus Christ.
If we want to fight against all of the propaganda forced into our media, I can't think of a better game to support. So even if the gameplay...
So the game that's about the Christian religion, or it primarily has the Christian religion in it, is the Chud game. It's the game you think it's going to be anti-woke. Oh my god. Could this man make it more fucking obvious what he's about? He might as well just say that if you're not a Christian and if you're not white, I don't like you. He might as well say that. That would be way more subtle than the shit he does.
If the first wasn't exactly my thing, I certainly will be buying and reviewing this, and I have no...
The first one wasn't your thing, why is the second one gonna be your thing? Oh, because you now hate the establishment so much that you're willing to play a game you didn't like the first one of, and you're gonna play the sequel of? Probably you're not gonna like it either. So, mixed messaging here. I didn't like the first one, so why would the second one be that much better?
No doubt that it will be a quality game at the very least. Other highlights of the show were more Monster Hunter Wilds gameplay, which I personally am somewhat excited for, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which I will definitely be buying and reviewing. There's no way to know if the gameplay will actually be good, because every time they've shown us uncut gameplay, there were certain little things that looked questionable, but they also showed off that it looks like the new story mode is going to have some kind of what-if system where you can make choices throughout the story to play unique scenarios. There's no telling if that will branch off into its own storyline or if it'll just be one-off missions. But still, that's a pretty good idea. I've always liked what-ifs in the Dragon Ball games. I have been personally asking for a new Tenkaichi game for 15 years, so I am happy to see that it's finally getting a sequel, and my expectations are incredibly low, so I can't imagine I'll really be disappointed. There are a few more interesting games as well. There was more footage for Metaphor ReFantasio, which is by the creators of Persona. I'll no doubt give it a try. There's Phantom Blade Zero, which is a fast-paced action game that might be a Sekiro-like, or maybe just a hack-and-slash game with some Souls-light mechanics. Hard to tell at this point, but the gameplay did look pretty fun. There was a little bit of gameplay shown for the re-release of Sonic Generations with new Shadow the Hedgehog levels, which I will definitely be purchasing. And no, I don't care that this is effectively a remaster with a DLC stapled to it. Sonic Generations is still way more fun than the vast majority of games that come out each year, so I'm sure the Shadow the Hedgehog levels will make it worth a buy for me personally. There's also the mech game that kind of looks like an Armored Core clone called Mecha Break. That looks fairly interesting. And finally, the game I'm sure all of you wanted me to mention, the Killer Bean game. Yes, you know, the ancient internet meme, the Killer Bean animation. Yes, this looks like pure slop, like a streamer bait game, but I'll be honest, I actually want to play this at least. At bare minimum, I expect to be able to laugh at it, which is still being entertained on some level, something modern gaming doesn't understand. Games are supposed to be fun. This looks...
But entertainment is also subjective for person to person. But you're very clearly incapable of putting your taste aside and trying to look at games from an outsider's perspective. But then again, that's the human experience. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean everyone has to dislike it. But the way Synthetic Man works is not only that he doesn't like the game, there has to be this propaganda to it. There's always something wrong that's like he's projecting a problem onto the game from his perspective, and that in return kind of ruins the game for other people because they can sit there and be like, well, you know, Synthetic Man said that, you know, this game is woke, and I don't like woke stuff, so I'm not going to play this game. Even though the game could be amazing. 10 out of 10 gameplay, great story, great characters, freaking amazing graphics, a great soundtrack. But because it has a black woman in it, it's woke. Which means people won't buy, Synthetic Man supporters won't buy it. That's what this man does. He's essentially a grifter at the end of the day.
Fun, even if maybe for the wrong reasons. So yes, I am kind of looking forward to the Killer Bean game's release. And that's it for all the good stuff in the show. The rest of the trailers shown ranged from mediocre slop to actual leftist propaganda being shoved down our throats for the millionth fucking time. Like I said, it wouldn't even be worth it to have a woke counter. All you have to do is count the amount of brown female protagonists on screen, and trust me, it only gets worse from here. The other shows actually have even more diverse female protagonists than this. This fucking Stanley Parable guy is making a game where you play as a brown female barista who wants to be a great warrior, but she's stuck serving tea to people. I mean, what the fuck? No, I don't care if the game has this morbid twist where you then go murder all the people because she finally snaps. So who cares? That would still be woke in its own way. Oh man, tiny woman goes psycho and murders a bunch of people. And if it's not that, then it's just boring ass Animal Crossing-esque chore simulator. I don't care, man.
You mean like Animal Crossing? And for the record, I think this game actually has an interesting premise. Enough where I'm thinking, man, I kind of want to check this game out when it comes out. Because, yeah, again, I'm actually someone who doesn't look at skin color and says that it's an immediate reason I don't play it. I don't care at the end of the day. Your skin is exactly that. Skin. You know what happens when you cut your skin? You bleed. It has no real fucking value. But for some reason, idiots like him, when they see a brown person or a person of different religion, all suddenly that they can't open their mind to it. I like this idea for this game. I think it actually sounds very interesting. Now, I don't know how gameplay-wise it's going to translate, but I do think there's an interesting premise here that is enough to keep me interested and potentially buy the game.
And then there's the climbing survival game, once again with a diverse female character. There is an indie game where you play as some Scottish dude leading an army, and they slipped in a black Scottish woman and thought we wouldn't notice. And there was an Abby Zilla type character as well. Look forward to seeing more muscular women in the other showcase.
What? Dude, oh my god. Abby Zilla? Really? Okay. We gotta talk about this shit, man. we gotta talk about, first off, these are fucking video games. They're not gonna be 100% accurate to history. Like when you see there, like with this gameplay here, it doesn't look realistic. It's like what, one person fighting a whole army? Come on, man. So what? There's a black character. My God, dude, the man's what he thinks is propaganda is by a black person just being in the fucking background. In a world that is made up of so many different races and so many different cultures, so many different fucking people of skin color, isn't it crazy to think that maybe, just maybe, there might be a black person in the background and it's not propaganda? Maybe they're just in the background because they're in the fucking background. Or they're a support character. Or they're the main character. Is it crazy to think, in the world we live in, that a black person could sit there and say, you know, I think we should make a character about a black character. You know, kind of break away from the, you know, what would you call it? The minority of white guys. You know, let's be real. Yes, white people take up a lot of the population, but our game doesn't have to reflect that. That's the thing that makes video games so great, is you literally can do anything you want with your game. You want to make a game about a black character rising up from the ghetto and becoming super rich and then learn the value of family and friendship? You can do that. You want to make a freaking video game where it's about a kid growing up and, you know, seeing his parents, you know, go through a nasty divorce and how they badmouth each other all the time. And then the kid, you have to make a decision. Do you side with the father or the mother? Like, that's the thing I love about video games, is you're allowed to do more than reflect reality. In fact, you don't have to represent reality at all. It's a fucking video game, dude. You're looking at a video game and calling it propaganda because they actually want to make it more fantastic, more out there. I guarantee this man does not like South of Midnight, which of course, because it's a fucking black girl. But I think that game looks amazing. I think it looks fucking phenomenal. And yeah, it looks a bit like Kena, but I fucking love Kena. Kena's a great game. Highly recommended for people.
And they slipped in a black Scottish woman and thought we wouldn't notice. And there was an Abby Zilla type character as well.
As far as muscular women go, I don't care. I don't care if she's super muscular. Dude, there's a character in Hi-Fi Rush that is basically a walking wrestling parody. It's jacked to hell. And I think that's an enduring character. Abby is a character I like. What about this game right here makes you think it's supposed to be realistic in any sense? Look at the fucking art style. Look at the fucking gameplay. What about that makes you think it's supposed to be realistic? Motherfucker, you're trying to oppose things on games just for the sake of realism when it's not even supposed to be realistic at all.
I'll look forward to seeing more muscular women in the other showcases. There was even a higher budget adventure game where you play as an Indian woman. Of course, they only showed like 3 seconds of gameplay, so I couldn't even really tell you what type of game it is. Oh, and we can't forget the blatant shilling of Alan Wake 2 once again. It's obvious Remedy is about to go bankrupt. So now, a year later, they're releasing physical copies of the game. And, of course, DLC to try and bring back the fans by having the chick from Control and the dude from Quantum Break. Do not fall for this desperation. Let Remedy die. They get what they fucking deserve. And even discounting all of the woke stuff, there were just so many games that nobody asked for or cares about on any level. Like the Lego Horizon Zero Dawn game. I mean, really? Sony is just not gonna give up trying to make Aloy a thing. It's never gonna...
But Aloy is a thing. The Horizon series has sold over 10 million copies. And I'll be honest, that Lego game looks fucking cool, man. I'm sorry, I actually look at games from a broader perspective. Yeah, Aloy isn't fuckable, but even then, look at this picture. I don't think she looks bad. I don't think she's the most attractive woman in history, But then again, not every chick I've ever been in a relationship with has been the most attractive woman in history. Might have been the most attractive woman in history to me at the time. But Jesus Christ, dude, it's like people are supposed to actually have fucking personalities instead of their looks to rely off. And I think Aloy, for the most part, is a pretty cool character. I think she has problems, you know, how she's written. And obviously they write her, you know, to be more, I guess you say gay. And then I got no problem with that. I got no problem with a character being gay as long as it doesn't sit there and go, okay, go collect those lesbian coins and make sure to collect those kisses from other girls. Like, because then it just feels forced. No competent fucking writer does something like that. No competent game designer would do that. It is just a minute point. Aloy kissed a girl at the end of Burning Shores, and that's it. She's in a potential relationship with another girl. And I find this so weird. I'm going to point this out, just because I do think it's weird. That all these supposedly straight men have a problem with two girls kissing each other. Just because they don't find them attractive. These are also the same people who will tell you, I don't care if they're gay. I don't care if they're in a relationship. But then they say shit like this. They say, I don't care if she's not, you know, a hot model or something. But then they say shit like this. They say they're about the writing and the characters, but then it all stops when they see one image that doesn't look super flattering. This is how pathetic these so-called alpha men really are. They're not even alpha. They're beta at best. They're beta incels who are basically sitting there judging women off their appearances, not their personality. And mind you, in a fictional fucking thing, in a video game. You know, the thing that's supposed to be about gameplay and story, they can't jerk off to it. 0 out of 10.
Gonna happen. She looks like fucking Nikocado Avocado.
Oh, you fucking had to bring up that one fucking image. Motherfucker. First off, Nick Avocado here's got double chin duty going on here. Like literally double chin duty. Where's the double chin here? Yeah, this part looks a little fatter, but then this part looks a little slimmer. And by the way, mind you, this isn't a cutscene that's in the fucking game. It's not in the fucking game. In fact, you can see the State of Play logo right there. So, we're going to call Aloy fat off a pre-release image that it's not even from a perspective of from the perspective of gameplay or the perspective that's actually represents the final game. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. These incels are so fucking annoying with the shit. Every time they do this shit, I fucking cringe and I just want to fucking lose it. I just want to snap and go crazy on them, but I can't because I gotta be better. To quote Kratos, don't be sorry, be better. And I gotta be better than them.
The only thing that's interesting about Horizon are the robot dinosaurs. The humans are disgusting. Oh, and as a punch in the balls, there's a teaser for a new Batman Arkham game. And guess what? It's a VR game. And they purposely don't show any gameplay. As the biggest cringe moment of the show, we had the creators of Among Us come out on stage and tell us they've started a fund for indie games. I'm sure they will only support the greatest that indie games have to offer. Games made purely for fun and definitely don't have any modern politics in them. Holy shit.
I'm creative director of Outer Loop Games, makers of Thirsty Suitors and Falcon Age.
What?
In our new
Thirsty
game,
Suitors?
In an upgradable mech and cook up tasty dishes for local communities. Fight off corpos, discover new dosa recipes.
Oh my god. Fight off lagging corpos. You're being funded by a soon-to-be corpo that made all its money off of a fucking meme game. Maybe when there's an Among Us movie.
Those all all look
Among Us
fantastic, and I
movie
cannot wait to play them.
and a TV
But all
show,
of those
and
amazing indie games aren't the
I don't
only
know.
thing coming
How
out
much
of
money
this
they have to
slot.
make before they're
Did you know that
Corpo?
there's going to be an Among Us TV show?
Well, I was
Sounds
joking.
like you did.
I
Yes,
was
there's going to be an
joking.
Among Us TV
Oh
show.
my god.
Check
No
out this
fucking
sneak
way. Oh, and how could I forget? There was also shilling for Inside Out 2, and guess who was in the crowd? None other than our favorite YouTuber, Yong Yeah, who, despite his incredibly terrible voice acting reputation, somehow landed a role in Inside Out 2 as a fake video game character.
Welcome to your eternal fate.
Oh, even one line sounded terrible. Yeah, I really have nothing to say about this one. And as for the last real highlight of the show, Blumhouse has now gone from just making horror movies to now horror games. And they show a compilation of indie games here, some of which look promising, but of course there was one that had an incredibly diverse art style. But I can't really say I was particularly interested in any single game. The entire rest of the show was just completely mediocre, forgettable slop. Even though there were a handful of games that looked interesting, it was just so unbelievably boring. There was so much garbage there.
Unbelievably boring like this fucking video. My god, dude. How many times you gotta say diverse? Like, I find it so hypocritical that these people will sit there and tell you that they're anti-diversity, and that's all they fucking talk about. Like, my god, this man. Oh, let's just get through this.
That it was truly awful, worse than some of the worst E3s without a doubt. Now moving on to the Xbox game showcase, this was probably the best one, but it definitely still wasn't good. Its greatest strength is that it was only an hour long, mercifully. Starting off with the highlights, we have Doom: The Dark Ages, a prequel to Doom 2016 and Eternal. Now, if you've been a fan of the channel a long time, you'll know I was highly critical of Doom Eternal. I really was not a fan of the direction that game took with its core gameplay mechanics, namely having to switch weapons constantly and the high-level difficult gameplay funneling you down a certain particular play style. It felt very autistic, bordering on speedrunner territory. So although the tiny bit of gameplay here looks cool, we won't know until the game comes out if the devs decided to listen to some of the more casual players' criticisms of the game, or if they're going to try and please the cult fan base that has formed around Eternal's gameplay. At the end of the day, if it ends up being a quality game, I'll just admit it isn't for me, but I sure as hell will share my distaste in the review. The next highlight was actually a new IP called Expedition 33. Now, when I first saw this, I was a little bit confused. The gameplay looked strange.
I will say this is like one of the big highlights for the Xbox showcase in my opinion, because it actually looked really interesting. It's a turn-based RPG, and I could kind of tell because, you know, the HUD right there, and this is like your battle order. This game looked good. Like, this game looked good. Doom Dark Ages, but if I'm being honest, I'm not a fan of Doom, so I'm not gonna criticize it because it's whatever. You know, you can like what you like. You know, personally, I'm just not a big fan of Doom's gameplay style. More of a fan of something like, you know, Timefall 2. If I'm being honest, that's kind of my style for games, as far as FPS games go. You know, and I'm not even a big fan of, you know, like FPSs to begin with. One of my email addresses I used to have growing up was literally FPS hater.
I could barely even tell it was a turn-based RPG. But after giving the trailer a second look, I gotta say I am cautiously optimistic about this game. The first good sign is that there's actually an attractive female character in this, which is mind-blowing for a modern game, especially given almost every other trailer in this showcase featured an ugly, androgynous, or straight-up man-faced woman. So seeing the cute little redhead in this trailer certainly caught my attention, but also it seems like they're almost going for a Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi style turn-based RPG system where they have sort of mini quick time events or maybe some kind of other reactive gameplay. while the enemy is attacking or you're attacking, so you're not just picking your moves and waiting for stuff to happen. It's kind of hard to tell given how little gameplay was shown in the trailer, but I can certainly admire a Western studio calling back to the olden days of classic JRPGs, so I'm certainly willing to give this one a try. Then we have the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, which I am surprisingly cautiously optimistic for.
I'm not. There's things I was seeing in this trailer. I was like, oh no. Yes, it's an upgrade, but there's also parts in it where I was like, ooh. I don't know if fans are going to like this one. Like, I'm not a big Metal Gear fan, for the record. I think Metal Gear has an interesting lore. Kojima is definitely out there with his ideas at times. But, yeah. Not very optimistic about MG3, and you guys will find out when it comes out why.
Although I certainly would not trust Konami on any level, especially seeing that they let Bloober Team touch Silent Hill 2. I have to admit, using Metal Gear Solid 5's gameplay mechanics and reusing the original voice lines from the original version of the game, it actually looks pretty good. Again,
Yeah, and do you know why they have to use the original lines? Because David Hayter has said he'll never do Snake's voice again without Kojima. Like that, basically, if Kojima's on board for doing a Metal Gear game, he's on board doing it. But yeah, and I don't blame him because Konami fucked Kojima real bad, and it was to the point that I think they tainted the franchise forever.
and I'm not going to tell people to go out and pre-order it, but I did like what was shown here. A game that some of you will likely be excited for is the Age of Mythology remake. Although I don't play RTS games, this one looks like it's untainted by modernity, so to speak. No race-swapped gods, just kind of looks like a fun game if you're into that sort of thing. Stalker 2 was the next game that looked pretty promising. A lot of people are definitely excited for it, and the gameplay looks solid. The only thing that maybe was a little bit of a red flag is there's randomly a black guy in Ukraine. So I don't know if that's a sign that Zelensky himself or his goons got their hands on the game studio, or if the devs are doing this as a fuck you to Russia. Maybe he's a legitimately well-written character with an explanation how he ended up there. I guess we won't.
He's the merchant. Like, from what I saw, he was a fucking merchant. So, if anything, he just probably isn't much of a character to begin with. And for the record, black people exist in the Ukraine. Just saying. Then again, Synthetic Man being cringe by just saying, oh, I gotta worry because there's a black man on the screen. My God. This man, I guarantee this fucking man walks into, like the projects or something. He'll go, man, this place is full of diversity. For the record, I'm going to say this. I don't wish ill upon Synthetic Man, but sometimes I wish he'd get his ass beat a little. But these kind of people, they talk a lot of shit, but they got nothing to back it up.
Know for sure until the game releases, but his presence certainly stood out to me. And for the final highlight of the show, we had the reveal for a Gears of War prequel. Finally, another game for the dude bros to chew on. However, I think there's definitely a bit too much hype around this reveal. It was just a CG trailer. The last couple of Gears games weren't that good, apparently, and I'm not even a fan of Gears of War. I don't even like cover-based shooters in general. I think in most games, it is incredibly lazy and boring style of gameplay that requires little skill. And although Gears of War is definitely one of the better ones, it also unfortunately created this trend of copycats creating easily the worst subgenre of shooter on the market back in the 360 era. Yes, it's definitely a good thing that this will hopefully be a game made for straight men. I just don't like the style of gameplay. Now for the bad parts of the Xbox showcase. Don't worry, there were easily as many bad trailers as there were good. First off, we have the new Dragon Age game that looks so goddamn cheap, it's unbelievable. I didn't even know...
It was a CGI trailer! It was a CGI trailer! What else am I going to say? What can you judge off the CGI trailer? Outside of the classes and the character race. That's it.
It was Dragon Age until they revealed the title at the end. It looks like a fucking mobile game.
Really? Because I knew that was Varys right away.
And it's already been confirmed that all of the characters will be pansexual. So I'm sure this is going to be the new.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is when you think about it, of course every character is pansexual. Because guess what? They can have sex with any race. Pansexual means that you don't limit yourself to one gender specifically. And in this case, the pansexuality means you don't limit yourself to one species either. Although, I guess in a species case, what if they laid eggs? For a second, I just want to say, I've been watching Orville, and that show's fucking hilarious. Love it. I love that show to death. And then they made me think, well, wait a minute, what if they lay eggs? Then how do you have sex with them? And all that stuff. I don't know why that came to my mind. There's literally a fucking character that's a blob, and he's fucking hilarious. But of course, you also have, that's for diversity because there's a trans character. I don't even want to talk about that shit, but I fucking love Orville. Just for the record, it's a great show. Highly recommend people check it out.
New Baldur's Gate 3 of degeneracy, but without the quality game design. Hopefully BioWare dies for good this time. I can't believe they've managed to stick around this long, churning out crap. Next up, we had the trailer for the first expansion of Starfield, and as you guys know, I'm a huge fan. I'm not convinced! I'm sure this was already well into development by the time Starfield released, so there's no way it's gonna actually fix anything. I'm sure it'll be more slop, but if you guys want to see me review it, feel free to tell me in the comments. Next up, we've got some gameplay for South of Midnight. We have to pay reparations, so every white person here has to pre-order the Mega Ultimate Edition of this game. It's the only way we can erase our white guilt. Am I right, Redditor? And of course, it looks like a cheap-ass middleware cash grab. I find it hilarious that this was the first uncut gameplay we got to see during the Xbox Game Showcase, because they knew they had to show a little bit of gameplay to fool some people into thinking this is a real game instead of a propaganda piece. And of course, it just looks like slop. Not to mention the low frame rate animation literally hurts my eyes just watching it. I'm not exaggerating. This is just yet another game.
You are actually being a fucking little troll, aren't you? I'm catching on to your little game here. Oh, hey, little troll. Hey, little troll. BAM! I just kind of want to deck you in the face right now, dude. If I'm being honest, I want to deck him in the face real bad. Not a propaganda piece. It's a fucking video game. A propaganda piece was sitting there being, you play as a black character and you're exterminating all the white people, but you're doing it in the name of the noble cause. My God, dude. Do you actually not know what fucking propaganda is? This is why I hate the internet. Because the internet gives everyone a voice and not everyone needs to be heard. I think this game looks good. I think the frame rate thing actually was an artistic choice, which is funny because if you actually look at the gameplay's going to 60 FPS, but the characters aren't. It's kind of like the Spider-Verse effect. I think that's the best way to call it. And I like it. I like it a lot. I was like, man, this looks good. Yeah, it's not like the most original game when it comes to its gameplay, but then again, it doesn't need to be. It just needs to hook me. It just needs to have an interesting premise and and cool characters. And I think the characters are cool. I liked the catfish. She was kind of cool. I even liked the freaking alligator, the design. It's so funny because that alligator was fucking intimidating to me, if I'm being honest. And the main character, I really couldn't get too much of a read of her character, but I kind of like the premise. She's looking for something about her mother. Wasn't 100% sure. I'm pretty sure she's either looking for her mom or she's looking for something her mother left behind.
Game that's going to bomb and be more fuel to the fire that gamers are all racist for not wanting to buy games that don't represent them on any level and don't look appealing for that matter. Moving on. And just a few minutes later, we get another game with a dark-skinned female protagonist using a flintlock pistol, an axe, and some magic or some shit. This is just getting comical at this point. This is exactly why I didn't do a woke counter for this video.
Black people can't do magic. Like, I don't get your criticisms in here. Again, this is why I can't stand this man. Black people equal forced diversity. Like, what's it tell you when the game he seems to be most excited for is the one that has a a character that he sexualizes? What's that tell you? The man is looking for jerk-off bait. He's not looking for actual game. He's looking for J.O. bait. And it's kind of disgusting. Like, dude, I'm not a person to sit here and kink shame people. You know, whatever gets you off. I don't care. I'm a person that's like, you know, if I'm into a trans person, I'm into a trans person. If I'm into a black person, I'm into a black person. If I'm into a dude, I'm into a dude. I don't care. I don't care. That stuff is superficial. I'm interested in the person. But this man, he seems to sexualize a lot of fucking characters that he likes. Just pointing it out. And I do think that's disgusting behavior. That's actual degeneracy.
There are more woke games than just normal fucking games at this point by a considerable margin. These devs could have made some charming cult classic middleware game. Instead, they gave into the corporate.
Like South of Midnight? Like South of Midnight. But you said that looked bad. But now you're telling them they should make a game like South of Midnight where it's more about the characters and the personality and, you know, having kind of a specific art style to it. So, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm not going to get through this fucking video. I'm not. I want to turn it off. I really fucking do. But I'm doing it for you guys. We're getting through this shit. Because I guess you guys like seeing me suffer. Fucking guys, you guys owe me.
Funding, and now the game's gonna bomb. I don't want to get too edgy in this video at the risk of getting banned, but at what point do we as a collective have to realize that voting with our wallet is not enough, because these investment firms effectively have unlimited money, especially if they're getting that money from Microsoft, and yes, Microsoft is one of the biggest contributors to BlackRock, or if they're getting that money directly from the government, which the Canadian government has funded many woke games at this point. Somehow I think simply not buying these games is not enough. Now, to not suggest something that would get me banned, I would just say right-wing people need to get into game development, or at the very least people who are willing to put aside their personal politics and are intelligent and hopefully have a lot of life experience would get into game development like they did 20 years ago, but that is looking less and less likely, especially in America where everyone is either a political extremist or a brain-dead NPC. Anyway, the next terrible trailer was for the Perfect Dark reboot, and just like the Dragon Age trailer, I couldn't even tell it was Perfect Dark until they revealed the title. And Crystal Dynamics, famous for having shrunk Lara Croft's magnificent breasts, have now given Joanna Dark a massive fucking man jaw. Imagine.
Oh my god, dude! Yeah, again, this is right here. This is proof. The man sexualizes too much. This is supposed to be a cartoon. This is clearly designed to be a cartoon character. This is designed to be a more modern character. Do you see the fucking difference, moron? I think, for the record, I don't think she's attractive or anything. I agree that she's not, like, super attractive. But that's not the fucking selling point of a video game. The selling point is the stuff right here. The gameplay. I actually think the gameplay of this game looked really fucking cool. I think it was a, good looking espionage game. I like the ideas I saw with that game. But that's because I was actually paying attention to the fucking game when they were showing the fucking game. What a fucking shock. I wasn't looking for jerk off bait. If I can't jerk off to this is a 0 out of 10. Fuck you, dude. Oh, God. Fucking idiots like you really fucking set the species back.
In my shock. Honestly, I don't even care about the gameplay they showed here. It looked pretty fucking generic. with the coolest moments being special abilities that just give you aimbot, which is probably my least favorite FPS ability. And yeah, I don't know, I just can't care about this because I already know it's gonna be woke as fuck. It doesn't even look anything like Perfect Dark. Just let this game be yet another reminder
That was Perfect Dark's the whole fucking idea before. A GoldenEye different IP. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Oh my god. When they're actually trying to do something different with the IP to establish itself from, you know, the GoldenEye ripoff, let's be honest here, that's what Perfect Dark was. They can't win. They can't win in your eyes because idiots like you are going to look at the fucking character design and say, well, I can't jerk off to that. 0 out of 10. Jesus fucking Christ. And yeah, the shooting elements look generic. Because fucking shooting, how do you change shooting a gun? You don't. To me, it was cool as the espionage stuff. The stuff that I was like, oh shit. You could take a voice sample from a character, repurpose it with an AI that I guess, you know, you have assistance with, and use it to open a gate. Or you could take like a fingerprint off a scanner and put it on her palm, like this neograph, and be like, the fingerprints she took could be used to open doors and get collectibles and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I think is interesting. That's the stuff I was like, man, why don't we see more of that kind of stuff? That'd be cool. I want a stealth game like that. A game that's actually stealth-based, but like with the new technology aspect. Hell, give her a prosthetic arm. Because then she could switch the fingers in her to like lockpick. That'd be pretty cool too.
that if you're begging for a reboot, a remake, or a sequel of a beloved old franchise, that modern gaming will absolutely ruin it for you. Then we got a trailer for a Diablo 4 expansion that doesn't even look like a video game. It's just a short film of an Asian woman crying and screeching. Oh, that'll definitely sell me on your game. Then,
except for the fact that it was actually supposed to be about the cube she was holding, and how she made a deal with the devil, and the devil's like, hey, yeah, you control the cube, but you don't control me. And tortures her. Like, that was the idea going for that trailer. I thought, yeah, it didn't look anything, representative of Diablo 4, but at the same time, I don't think that was the point. I think the point was to make you really think, man, this next season's going to be fucked up. And then we get into Fable, which, honestly, I think Fable looks pretty damn good. Like, I'm actually kind of jealous of you Xbox guys. You get to play Fable, which actually looks pretty good. Yes, the character's not fuckable, but at the same fucking time, that's not the whole point of a fucking video game. It's to actually play the game, get immersed into the story, and the role-playing elements. Well, at least in a role-playing game. So, remember, this is the same guy who had problems with Baldur's Gate 3. So, I don't think he exactly is someone who, to put it best, thinks outside of a narrow perspective.
we get another CG trailer for the Fable reboot.
CGI! This is actual gameplay, just no HUD.
Remake, sequel, whatever. We get to see more of the absolutely disgustingly hideous protagonist. The villain is also a woman, which is just great. Even the retired great hero has like a bloated face. Nobody's allowed to be attractive in this.
The fucker is in mostly a dark lit area. How do you get... I don't know what the fuck to say. This man, anything that's not attractive to him is woke forced diversity. My God, this man needs to actually go outside and touch some fucking grass. Go outside and talk to real fucking human beings. Go outside and talk to actual human beings that he doesn't call mommy, daddy, or brother. Like, this man, I can tell you, he does not leave his fucking house because the way he talks about, these characters. Because you have to remember, like, in the incel world, there actually is very little actual reaction. I know this man's fucking lonely. Because every time he's done a fucking review, or at least the ones I've seen, like the Last of Us review and the Fallout TV show review, he talks about watching the show with his mommy. And I'm just going to say, this is suspiciously looking like a bedroom. Just saying. What house can you think of has a connection to the bedroom, a bathroom right there, and isn't a, what would you say? A little bit, a multi-room house. I suspect this man lives with his mommy, and it's pathetic.
Universe. Look, man, I just don't want to play ugly games. I don't care that I can make
Well, I don't want to listen to your fucking shitty ass takes, but I have to.
my own protagonist. I don't have to play as the woman, obviously. The game is just promoting ugliness in general. I don't want to play an ugly game. Is that so bad?
Yes.
I think we all know it's going to be shit anyway, so...
Because ugly is a matter of perspective. To me, you're very ugly. And it's not even to do with anything with your fucking face at this point. It's your personality, dude. You have a shit personality. Like, I legit believe you don't get chicks. Sorry. I heard something disconnect for a second there.
Oh, moving on. Then we get a trailer for Mixtape, which legitimately just looks like a movie. Describing it as a movie game doesn't even really do it justice. It's even framed like a movie in the trailer. The trailer itself is cut to look like an 80s movie. And of course, she plays a woman in this too. So, you know, I already didn't care, but now I'm annoyed on top of being apathetic. And of course, this is another game trying to ride on the coattails of Spider-Verse with the low frame rate, ugly animation. As if I needed another reason to not want to play it. And you might be surprised to hear me even mention this next game, but Flight Simulator 2024 somehow managed to slip in propaganda. A woman even... We're really starting to reach peak Clown World levels, aren't we? Next up is a trailer for yet another Life is Strange game, bringing back the original protagonist for another adventure, and this new art style just looks ugly, honestly. And I don't even care about these games outside of my stream chat just begging me to play them because they have nuclear levels of cringe and usually some political propaganda alongside it. So, even though I'm sure it'll be dog shit, I'll probably end up streaming this at some point. Then we had a trailer for the new Indiana Jones game by Machine Games, and may I remind you that Machine Games made Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus possibly one of the most woke games ever made. It was far ahead of its time at release, featuring racism, miscegenation, bizarre female supremacy / fetish content, glorification of communism, and somehow managed to make the Nazis look like the good guys. So I expect much of the same from this Indiana Jones game, if not worse. No doubt the female character will be the real protagonist, will save Indy on multiple occasions, and will be better than him in every way. Already this dialogue looks incredibly cringe. The only gameplay shown was like 10 seconds of vertical slice cut shit. So no doubt this will be crap. And the rest of the trailers were just for games I didn't really personally care about, like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and State of Decay 3, and a few other notable ones, but the only reason I would rate Xbox as the best show is just because it was only an hour long and there were a handful of decent looking games, but there sure as hell were a lot of bad trailers here. There is a comical amount of political propaganda being shoved in our faces at this point. I know I'm beginning to sound like a broken record here, but video games are not being made for gamers anymore. They're being made for investors. They're being funded by megalomaniacal evil overlords straight out of a fucking comic book.
Jesus,
it doesn't even feel like
Christ.
reality anymore, but these...
This man, I swear to God, he lives in a fucking fantasy world. Like, I'm sorry, I'm texting here because me and my friends are talking. But Jesus fucking Christ. This man literally sounds like a propaganda piece to me. But not for the left, but for the right. The man just, Jesus fucking Christ. I am so tired of his voice. I literally just want to turn it off. How much we got left? Fuck. Too much. We got too much left. Let's just get through it.
People legitimately do not view you and me as human beings. We are cattle to them. And this is the slop they want to feed us for the rest of time. Now, for the last two shows I watched, there really wasn't much to actually talk about. We had the PC gaming show, which is legitimately the worst gaming show I have ever seen in my entire life. It was 2 straight hours of indie games and some middleware budget PC games that I had zero interest in. And in between the trailers, I had to listen to some of the cringiest interactions I've ever seen between this middle-aged bald soy boy and LeVar Burton's daughter, who is a absolute nepo baby who has only failed upward. Those of you who are fans of Rooster Teeth in the past will know exactly what I'm talking about. The only thing that kept my chat mildly entertained was a display of mommy milkers every once in a while. But yes, I'm going to save you a summary. Even though there may have been 2 or 3 mildly interesting indie games, it was really just 2 hours of utter torturous shit. And as for the final show, Ubisoft Forward, it felt more like a presentation for investors than one for gamers. It was basically just an hour of saying, we're still supporting all our live service games, make sure to buy all the DLC and the microtransactions. Until we get a new 3D Rayman game, I don't give a fuck about anything Ubisoft could have to show me. There were only 2 real games shown worth discussing here. The first one being Star Wars Outlaws, which took up about a third of the show on its own. And look, man, I was never a big fan of Star Wars. Yes, I like the original movies, of course, and I grew up with the prequels, but I acknowledge that they're terrible movies. I just kind of like what they did for the Star Wars universe, but I have no personal attachment to Star Wars as a franchise anymore. I haven't since The Force Awakens came out. And it's already confirmed that this is going to be another open world Ubisoft game full of their usual slop content with incredibly basic stealth mechanics, generic third-person.
I'm kind of the same camp with Star Wars. Don't care. Although I did think the Jedi games were pretty good. Like, for the most part. But, yeah. This game looked to me pretty mid. Like, at this point, like, I'm just kind of letting him play. Because, like, being honest, man. I'm exhausted. How often do I have to hear something that's propaganda, something that's woke, until I just start turning my brain off to it? Because I'm like, dude, you're not worth actually getting mad about. You really aren't. You're not even worth acknowledgement. I'm only doing this because it's something to do every year. React to your yearly cringe that I swear to God, as you are getting older, you have become painfully predictable. You are as predictable as DSP at this point.
Person shooting, probably terrible quest writing, and of course you have to play as this Goblina woman who is yet another victim of modern politics, having her face being stretched into this gross androgynous creature, all to not offend the cult of autogynephilia. So yes, I have absolutely zero interest.
It's autogynephilia. The fuck is that? My God, dude. You just making shit up now, are ya?
Interest in this game, despite them showing off like 20 minutes of it. I don't really have much to say because it definitely didn't look interesting. It feels like a game I've already played like 30 times before. The only moment that caught my attention is when they unintentionally shit in Bethesda's mouth by showing you flying from space directly onto a planet with just a short fake loading screen, which is 10 times better than having to watch like the 3 minimum just to walk on a planet in Starfield. As for the other game shown, of course, it was a lot more gameplay for Assassin's Creed Shadows. The combat is clearly just a copy-paste of Valhalla's, with the same health bar, stagger system, parry system, 4 abilities that you can use at any time. At least it looks like the 2 main characters play significantly different from each other. So if you want the more classic Assassin's Creed gameplay, you'll play as Naue. But even then, it's fucking Ubisoft stealth. There's a part in the trailer where she just straight up sprints up to a dude and assassinates him just because she's standing in the dark. I just love how, like, 25 years later, we still have shittier stealth mechanics than fucking Thief. But I guess if you're buying Assassin's Creed, you kind of already know what you're in for. It's not like there's anything I could say to convince an NPC who's already decided to buy this game not to. I do, however, find it incredibly hilarious that this game is pretending that people wouldn't be freaking the fuck out if they saw a 6-foot black man walking around in feudal Japan.
I am a stranger, yes, but you have nothing to fear from me.
Yeah, I've seen videos of old Japanese women today freaking the fuck out when they see a black man. And you expect, all the way back in this time, they'd be like, oh yeah, so what a friendly youngster. Clown-pilled. I'm becoming clown-pilled. I can only laugh at this. Even the dogs don't bark at him. That might be the least realistic thing in this entire game. So yeah, despite the massive backlash to the trailers and this being an obvious copy-paste job of previous games, much like most of the other Assassin's Creed games, I'm sure this will somehow manage to sell millions of copies because the average consumer has such embarrassingly bad taste. They will buy the same game over and over again. Alright, let's just move to the conclusion. Ubisoft show sucked, obviously. Still not as bad as the PC gaming show. Xbox One, not that that really means much. If you're wondering what I thought of the Sony State of Play, it also was kind of terrible. That fucking Concord game looks like the most designed by committee shit I've ever seen. Guardians of the Galaxy character design and humor plus hero shooter equals some of the worst cape shit millennial garbage I think I've ever seen in my life. Luckily, that bit of Monster Hunter Wild.
Good thing I'm a millennial then. I'm excited for Concord. Yeah. I'm not like so excited, I already have it pre-ordered, but I'm excited in the sense that, I'll buy it. Why not? I don't got a FPS game to play right now. Fortnite doesn't really count. Cool. And I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. Absolutely love them. That's my favorite trilogy of any comic book movie. I like it more than I like the Batman movies, the Nolan movies more specifically. I like it more than any of the Superman movies. Like, to me, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy is like that perfect trilogy, that once in a lifetime gem you'll get. That once in a lifetime gem you'll get, and then they got 2 more times. And then after that, it's like, no, it's over. I don't care if Chris Pratt returns. I don't care if they do a mini series. If it doesn't have James Gunn's name on it, I don't want to see it. So Concord strikes the right nerve for me. But hey, I also, man, I'm kind of a shill for Sony.
Gameplay and the Astrobot game surprisingly looked good, but yeah, the show was pretty weak. At least it was only like 35 minutes. So is this the worst E3/Summer Games Fest of all time? Yes, definitely, without a doubt, dude. I don't want to repeat myself every single year, but I truly miss the presentation cringe of E3. And I miss genuinely huge game reveals that everyone was excited for. I get the feeling that most hardcore gamers like myself have simply stopped playing new games and they just play old games.
I mean, I play a lot of new stuff. And I play some old stuff. Been playing through the new Sly, well, not new Sly Cooper, but the Sly Cooper, well, you can't even call it a remaster, but like the port, I think it looked good. I was, happy with it. I also been playing new stuff too. I also been checking out Fortnite here and there. So yeah, I think gaming this year is, yes, in a weird spot because it's not as. It doesn't have as many big name games. And I think a lot of the big name games we've already gotten have kind of fallen apart. But at the same time, sometimes you just gotta expand outside of your realm. Okay, big AAA games aren't doing it for you. Go find something that you were interested in the past. Or go find something that's, a smaller scale game. That's personally been my philosophy this year. Just either chip at that backlog or find something that does catch your interest. Fuck if it's big AAA. If that means that you just have to be a little bit more, I guess I would say, forgiving of some kinks.
and I really wouldn't blame you. Honestly, that's the best advice I could give you. If you haven't completely given up on this hobby, just play some of the greatest games of all time in your backlog. They're better than anything that releases today, no matter what lefty shills will tell you about indie games. They're full of just as much, if not more, propaganda than AAA games, because they're actually made by leftists. They insert their ideology into their games. They just can't fucking help themselves. That's exactly what my last video was about, so I'd recommend checking out Sincerity is Dead if you'd like to see how a Morrowind clone somehow managed to fit in communist propaganda and LGBTQ shit and a complete lack of any player choice and horrible gameplay, and honestly, that game was just bad on like every level. If you don't want to watch that video, the takeaway from that is don't play Dread Delusion. But yeah, as my apathy grows toward the gaming industry, I find it hard to truly rant about how bad all these shows were. Honestly, the worst part was just wasting 6 hours of my life watching them. There's really no point in watching the live shows. You might as well just wait until they're over and then watch the few trailers for games that look interesting, and you'll save yourself a lot of time and energy. All of these idiot tourists and gaslighters who always say that I'm being hyperbolic when I say gaming is dying or gaming is dead. I mean, did you watch the show? This is supposed to be the biggest gaming showcase of the year, the replacement for E3. This is what's supposed to get us excited for the future. And all I saw was a bunch of blatant fucking propaganda and exploiting nostalgia for the millionth time. There was maybe 2 new IPs that looked interesting out of well over 100 games shown over the course of that 6 hours. That is fucking bleak, dude. So yeah, I'm gonna say it for the millionth time. Gaming is dead. Yes, there are a few good games that still come out each year. The best game I played this year was actually an indie game, Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom, a 3D collectathon platformer where you play as a taxi. So it's not like no good games come out anymore, but honestly, how literal does your definition of dead have to be? If you compare release lineups now to 20 years ago, it's fucking embarrassing. The fact that people were trying to pretend that 2023 was one of the greatest years in gaming history just shows you how far we've fallen. That's about it. See you next time, guys.
And thank God it's over. It's over. Oh, God. Dude. Watching a Sathic Man video, it's like torture. But somehow I would rather be waterboard. Because at least it's a new experience. This is the same shit he does all the time. And, man, I just gotta say it. Sathic Man is not... I don't like him. I don't like him. I think he's a piece of shit. And I know some people are like, oh, you gotta give him a chance. No. I don't have to give ignorant pigs a chance. I will give him a chance to something. Give him a chance to become bacon. Because even then, I can make a biggest sandwich out of him. So with that said, guys, this is That PlayStation Gamer signing out. Hoping y'all have a good day. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that YouTube algorithm BS. I'm going to go play some woke propaganda now. Because you know what? What can I say? Fuck them. I'm not going to say that. But you know what I was trying to say. So...